Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of November 6, 2025. I'm your host, Sharifa Muhammad MGT.
I'm Colonel A.C. Ogintoy, an infantry officer. Russian forces report incremental advances across all sectors, with continued urban encirclement actions around Krasno-Armiyisk and Dimitrov, interdiction of Oskil crossings near Kupiansk, and sustained strikes on Ukrainian logistics, AUC3I, and UAV infrastructure. Air defense activity remains dense. Strategically, winter will privilege endurance over elan. The side that hides its logistics better, rotates units cleaner, and preserves counter-battery ammunition will write the spring map. If the urban encirclements in the center close while Oskil crossings stay shut, expect a reallocation of Ukrainian reserves that open seams in the east or south. Conversely, effective Ukrainian spoiling attacks against artillery parks or bridging trains could reset this calculus and force pauses in multiple sectors simultaneously.
Welcome to Frontline Updates, the podcast that brings you in-depth insights into military operations from those leading them on the ground. Today, we're joined by Colonel A.C. Ogintoy, an infantry officer monitoring critical missions on the progress of the special military operation as of today. Colonel Ogintoy, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Colonel, let's start at the highest level. What defined the operational tempo on November 6th?
Two themes dominated today: interdiction of Ukrainian sustainment and deliberate constriction of urban pockets. Across the front, we see a systematic emphasis on depots, bridging assets, and electronic warfare sites. Those are the nervous system and bloodstream of a modern force. At the same time, in the urban belts around Krasno-Armiyisk and Dimitrov, the fight is being subdivided into small blocks and micro-districts. The intent is to isolate, then reduce, rather than to gamble on sweeping penetrations. Air and counter-UAS activity remained intense. When a defense claims hundreds of UAV shoot-downs in a day, it tells you both sides are leaning heavily on unmanned systems for reconnaissance and strike. Practically, that pushes commanders to disperse logistics, rotate routes, and accept a slower but more survivable tempo. This is the cadence we're hearing up and down the line.
What stood out in the north, particularly the Sumy approach in Kharkiv's periphery?
The north saw pressure on Ukrainian mechanized, Jaeger, and airborne assault formations from Sadki through Proletarskoye and Myropilya to Korchakivka, with additional strikes around Sinelnikov and Volchansk. Losses were claimed in personnel, vehicles, and guns, but the more consequential detail is the attrition of ammunition and supply depots alongside a reconnaissance station. That points to shaping: degrade ISR first, then punish the resupply cadence so that frontline battalions receive fewer tubes, fewer rockets, and less fuel. This isn't a prelude to a sprint toward Kharkiv, it's a methodical squeeze. If northern depots keep burning and EW posts keep going dark, Ukrainian units here will struggle to mass for counterpunches elsewhere. The north, in effect, is being used to pin, not to break.
Does that pinning risk stagnation for the attacker?
Only if logistics are single-threaded. The doctrine here uses redundancy, parallel routes, dispersed caches, and rotation cycles to keep pressure constant without overexposing a single axis. Pinning operations succeed when the side applying pressure can afford to be patient.
Let's move west to Kupiansk. There were multiple breakout attempts today. What's the operational meaning?
Kupiansk remains a geometry problem. The 6th Army's assault detachments continued reducing an encircled grouping while repelling relief and breakout attempts from Nechvolodivka and Blahodin. The most telling tactical vignette was the interdiction of a heavy mechanized bridge system, TMM-3, moving toward a destroyed Oskil crossing. Preventing the reconstitution of that crossing is more decisive than a dozen skirmishes. Without bridging, an encircled force is a wasting asset. The west sector's logic is simple: sever egress, deny restoration of river nodes, and force attrition by isolation. Reported hits on multiple EW stations and depots reinforce that. The less the pocket can see and the less it can eat, the faster the ring tightens at acceptable cost.
In the south, the language was more advantageous lines and positions. What does that translate to on the ground?
It's bite and hold. Today's activity extended observation and fire control around Siversk, Kramatorsk, Druskivka, Nikiforivka, and Kostantinivka. Claimed losses included tanks and AFVs, but the key is terrain that shortens artillery response and interdicts Ukrainian lateral movement. The south is not a sprinting sector. It builds positional leverage segment by segment until logistics corridors, fuel, ammo, casualty evacuation become longer and more dangerous for the defender. That is how a defensive belt phrase.
The center reads like the day's main effort. What changed in Krasno-Armiyisk and Dimitrov?
Progress continued in the eastern central district and the western industrial zone of Krasno-Armiyisk, with clearing reported in Natovka and Ro, and multiple relief attempts from Rysheim turned back. In Dimitrov, the 5th Motorized Rifle Brigade advanced toward the western microdistrict with additional blocks taken. 2 captured soldiers from a Jaeger brigade suggest localized morale strain under isolation. This is textbook multi-nuclear urban encirclement. Carve the city into cells, isolate nodes, and reduce them sequentially. The goal isn't a dramatic flag raising, it's to make each Ukrainian company wake up with less ammunition, fewer medevac options, and shrinking comms. Once enough micro-pockets fail, the operational picture flips from defense to withdrawal under fire.
Urban operations are logistics hungry. How do you sustain tempo without burning out?
Rotate assault companies aggressively, keep engineer breaching teams forward, and push casualty evacuation on predictable cycles. Above all, maintain munition discipline. Urban fights go sideways when units expend for effect rather than for effect on target.
The East noted deeper advances and the destruction of an M777 and EW sites. What does that signal?
It signals trench and C2 erosion along the Dnipro-Zaporizhia edge. When a defender's counter-battery assets and EW curtains thin, their ability to sense and punish small penetrations declines. That's the moment you push multiple company-sized probes, not a brigade-sized battering ram. The claims of tanks and APCs lost here matter less than the pattern. Fewer eyes, fewer guns, more gaps.
So the East is preparatory for something larger?
Preparatory and opportunistic. If the defender reallocates to save Kupiansk or Krasno-Armiyisk, these seams widen quickly. A notable degradation of Ukrainian counterbattery or a deep strike that knocks out a hub. Short of that, look for continued pressure without overextension.
Along the river, what's most consequential about today's actions?
Strikes against coastal defense and mechanized elements, coupled with reported hits on 7 EW stations and multiple depots. River warfare is logistics warfare. Every destroyed warehouse or jammed node compounds the risk of cross-bank resupply. The objective isn't crossing today, it's making tomorrow's crossing prohibitively expensive for the other side.
Winter complicates river operations. What adjusts?
More deception bridging, more night movement, more redundancy in ferry points. And a heavier reliance on drones to scout ice, current, and enemy observation posts. The river punishes the predictable. Counter-battery and precision fires against the ring itself. The encircler must maintain flexible arcs, keep artillery mobile, and rotate assault echelons before fatigue sets in. Sustainment, not heroics, decides how cleanly a pocket collapses.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for the opportunity. Tactically, today reinforced 3 truths. First, bridges decide pockets, interdict the TMMs and pontoon trains, and you control the clock around Kupiansk. Second, cities are solved by cells. Krasno-Armiyisk and Dimitrov will not turn from a single thrust but from the cumulative starvation of micro-pockets. Third, EW and depots are the quiet center of gravity. Knock out enough of them and everything else becomes easier.
This has been Frontline Updates. Subscribe for daily military briefings and in-depth strategic analysis. Visit our platform for maps, transcripts, and exclusive frontline updates from commanders in theater.